Welcome to another edition of Jules Voto's Photo Focus. Today I'm going to be talking about the Helios 44-2. It's a 58mm 2.0 lens in M42 screw mount, and this is one of those Russian lenses. It's a copy of an old Zeiss Biotar lens, and it has just a little bit about the specs on this lens. It takes 49mm filters. It has an 8-blade diaphragm. It will focus down to about a half a meter or about 19 inches. And this is a special lens. At least it's a special lens with what I did to it. And I reverse the front element. Now you can see in red here those two little notches on the lens. If you take a screwdriver, if you have a spanner wrench, it's even better. But if you take a little jeweler's screwdriver and remove that ring, that retaining ring that says Helios, you can then take out the front element and turn it over and place it back in, place the retaining ring back in, and it's going to give you some very special images. Now, there are videos online that will show you how to do this. It's very easy. You just got to be careful not to scratch the element. Now, this lens could be adapted to most mirrorless cameras with an inexpensive adapter. I use the Fotassi M42 to NZ adapter, which works on Nikon mirrorless cameras. Now, this lens has a preset aperture. You set the aperture with the ring in the front, and then there's another ring directly behind that, which you turn to open the lens to full aperture, and then turn it till it stops. That will take you to the aperture that you set. Now, I use this lens on my Nikon Z8 as I do with a lot of these manual focus lenses, and I needed to set non-CPU data in the camera so that in-body image stabilization would work. Now, a similar lens is the Helios 44M, and I did a report on that lens trying to achieve the famous swirly bokeh in a recent video. I'll put a link to that in the description below. So once you reverse the lens, once you reverse that front element, this is what you get. It's magical, that swirly bokeh that you could see here. These were shot at f2. The ones at 2.8 will be a little bit sharper. This lens at f2 is not very sharp, especially with this front element reversed, but it gives you magical bokeh. Look at this. It's difficult to focus. The focus peaking does not work very well with this lens, I guess because it's not real sharp at the wide apertures. And this one here is a 2.8. Gets a little bit sharper in the center at 2.8, but it's just the only word I could use is magical, what it does. It's not going to work for all subjects. I think it works great for flowers. And I took these first pictures of the roses with it, and I was amazed, just looking through the camera, what the effect was, that I just started shooting everything around the house with this lens. It's just, these are some leaves, fake leaves that between our kitchen and family room, and the sunlight was coming in. These were all shot. There was no additional lighting, just available light. And you may like some, you may not like others. This one was at 2.0. And then I wanted to see how would this same subject be at 2.8, and it was a little easier to focus. And you could see here that it's definitely sharper in the center. It still gives some of that magical look on the outside. It's not very sharp as you go to the edges, at least with the front element reversed. And I have that Helios 44M, and I'm going to keep that as it is. I'm not going to try to reverse the element on that. I don't even know if I can. But this 44-2, I'm just going to keep it this way with that reversed front element because I was really impressed with what it did. Now, I remember years ago, I bought a fisheye lens and I was shooting everything with the fisheye lens. Let me get back to the fisheye in a second. Now, this here of the pumpkin was at 2.0. Then I go to 2.08. You can see it sharpens up. And finally at 5.6, and it's pretty sharp at 5.6. But when I got that fisheye, I was shooting everything with the fisheye. And obviously, a lot of subjects don't lend themselves to fisheye. These are at f2 of the cat. Again, very difficult to focus, but I kind of like the overall look of it. I'd like to try for portraits. I didn't do any of that. And this was a shot in my living room. And I was sitting on the couch looking across the room. And there's a little column there with some fake leaves. And I just loved the way the light was hitting it. This was sunlight coming through the window behind me. And these are some additional pictures of some silk flowers with the lens. Again, most of these, almost all of these were shot at f2 or 2.8. Like I said, it sharpens up a little bit at 2.8 and it's a little bit easier to focus, but I still think it's magical at either f2 or 2.8. Now, the effect of this swirly bokeh is better at f2. You'll see it at 2.8, but I just like the way it looks at f2, although the center of the frame is sharper at 2.8. So it's a matter of just playing around with it. And with the Helios 44M, I had difficulty achieving it. With this lens, it was very easy. I don't know, maybe the conditions were right. It's good. You know, you need to be close to your subject at or near minimum focus distance. You need to, backlighting seems to work better. Now, this one here, you could see the flare. I was shooting into the window at various apertures. I think this one was at 2.8. So you just have to experiment, try different things, try different distances, different apertures, lighting. Like I said, I think the backlighting seems to work better. This was a glass vase where these silk flowers were in. I wanted to see what would happen with that, and you get all kinds of flare. And like I said, it doesn't work for every subject. Experiment. It's just another tool that we have in our toolbox of photography. There's so many things we have available to us today. Mirrorless cameras give us the option of using a lot of these manual focus lenses from back in the day. And just look at this effect. I'm just blown away by this. It's something I wanted to achieve using that 44M, but reversing this front element just makes it so much easier with this lens. And it's just a good time, as I said before, it's a good time to be a photographer because we have so many options. Now, I would like to try this lens on a film camera. I would like to shoot some transparency film with this, maybe Fujichrome Velvia. I think it could work out really nice. And the fact, another thing that's so great with mirrorless cameras is you could experiment with these things. You know, film is expensive. If you were going to shoot this on a film camera, I did a lot of playing around with this, but you could experiment with your digital and then shoot some film. Again, I think transparency film would work out great with this, especially with that Velvia with the high saturation. And the fact that you need to shoot this lens at or near maximum aperture makes it a little easier to shoot with an ISO 50 film. So like I said, I just went crazy with this lens. But then I wanted to see what would happen, there was nobody around that I could photograph, so I went to my standard test setup with, if any of you have seen any of my videos, you've seen this before, and I shot the mannequin. So this is at 2.0. This one is at 2.8, and we're zooming in here, and here we are at 5.6. So you could see the mannequin is sharp, but you get that softness around the edges. Then I went back to 2.0. So this is a very interesting lens. You could find them well under $100. Pick one up, experiment with it. Like I said, they will adapt to almost any mirrorless camera with the proper adapter. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I always try to respond to all questions and comments. And usually I publish a new video every Monday morning and Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So I will talk to you then.